Greetings and salutations, viewers. Welcome to another episode of Game Break. I am Charles, coming to you today with World End Economica, Part 2. Well, no, not Part 2, Episode 2. That's right, ladies and menfolk, we are diving back into the world of World End Economica. We are back on the moon, and we are going to find out just what the hell happened last time round. For those of you who are new to this verse, I highly recommend checking out World End Economica Episode 1, which was a multiple-part series that we did that covered a lot of ground. It was possibly the longest series we've done so far, although it might have at least tied for one of the BioShock series, I'm not quite sure. But it left off at a frustrating cliffhanger as to just where do we go from here. Yoshi kinda got stabbed in the back and really got screwed over. Big time. And we are left, as the dust has settled, with a mess. So how about we dive in to Episode 2, Part 1, and see how the butts do we go about fixing things. Long ago, I wasn't able to trust in a girl completely. I wasn't able to hold on to her hand in the storm that was throwing us around. Overcome with panic and fear, I fought my hardest, but ended up only looking for a way out. It's just, there was a much bigger problem than me trying to find a way out. That is, I couldn't hold on to the hand of the one who had faith that we could pull through together. In those final moments, I lost sight of what I should have believed, what I should have protected, and what was truly important. It turned out that bravery wasn't about not being afraid of anything, but rather it was about holding one's grace under pressure. I wasn't brave. I didn't have a shred of grace. I wet myself and prayed to a god that doesn't exist. I held not the hand of the one who was important to me, but the understanding and lenient hand of the Reaper. You can never know if the outcome of an experiment will be a success or a failure. Of course, there was nothing better than success. It's just that there are failures you must never commit. It's been 4 years since then. I still wake in the middle of the night, reaching for that hazy white light I could never touch. There are things you can't allow to get away from you in this world. Like an insect pinned to a board, I had that pinned down inside my heart. So it's been 4 years since the end of Episode 1. What have we done since then? Anything fun? Ooh, nice background. Broken glass, dilapidated walls, and a light with the bulb pulled out. I stood in front of an apartment complex with all of these in the impoverished area. Nobody was here to clean it up, so there were piles of beer bottles and some sort of parcel paper in the streets, all coated in rain and garbage. It was just before 11 a.m., the quietest time in the residential area. I readjusted my luggage and passed through the apartment's dimly lit entrance. Up until recently, much like the slums down on Terra, this part of Lunar City wasn't a bad area. As other districts became nicer, the land value and quality of living here decreased when those incapable of paying their rent took up residence. Even if things seemed bleak, Eventually, a sharp-eyed somebody would be attracted to the low property value and set out collecting capital to redevelop it. The apartments and buildings will be torn down, the humble little watering hole will become a proper bar, and the endearing general goods store that lets you put shampoo and soap on tab will be transformed into a heartless, modern shopping mall. And that new spick-and-span development will have no room for grungy individuals. Those unable to change with the pace of gentrification will go searching for yet another new place to live. This happened whenever a city was established on the lunar surface. It was a cycle mankind had gone through since the first cities were built. Lately, this cycle had become shorter. Not far in the future, these people would be kicked out. Thinking about that made me feel slightly gloomy as I passed through the corridor fashioned out of nothing but limestone blocks. It was even dimmer than the entryway. I passed an elevator that hadn't worked for months in favor of the stairway next to it, making my way up one step at a time on my crutches. Even electricity, the one abundant resource on the moon, where it's said that even breathing costs money, had started to become scarce because of the rapid development. Prices grew with scarcity. The poorest were the first to be unable to afford it. Lunar City even lowered the atmospheric temperature by more than 10 degrees in order to conserve electricity, so the morning and night are much colder compared to 4 years ago. It's pretty warm around noon, but still a bit nippy if you were lazing around. I took a deep breath and made my way towards my destination, the 4th floor. But before I even reached the dance hall on the 3rd floor, I heard their energetic voices. By the sound of it, there was quite a commotion in the room. I felt myself cringe mentally, thinking, well, what can you do? Today was that kind of day. I thought it was wonderful, myself. It has to be Mr. Jones's place from Lot 14. Get other drinks too, not just liquor. Making my way up the steps one at a time, I suddenly heard a booming voice so loud that it made me wonder how badly it was echoing inside the apartment. It wasn't a vulgar voice, though. I'd even be complimentary and say it sounded very clear. I got it! I ain't a kid! That response came from the guy thumping his way down the stairs. Turning past the dance hall, he paused in front of me with a look of disbelief on his face. We knew each other. His hairstyle had changed so much that it was hard to shake the feeling that it looked off after the last 4 years. Hey, you finally made it. It's already started. I heard. Sounds pretty lively. 'Cause we don't have many happy occasions like this. Cero had his hair back instead of wearing it in his characteristic afro. He descended a few stairs before bringing his hand up to my shoulder. What are you waiting around for? Hurry your ass up. Don't keep the star of the show waiting. Oh boy. Don't be all bashful. I'm not. I just was thinking about how you haven't changed at all. What? Even with my hair like this and me wearing a tie when I go to work? Cero chuckled as he said that. His hair aside, he didn't even wear a tie, nor does he go to his job often. The only change, if I were to believe some dubious internet cafe owner on the outskirts, was that he's now a senior engineer for some software company I've never heard of. Turns out Sarah regretted not being able to save Ryza from her situation 4 years ago. He could live without money, but he couldn't help someone else if he didn't have any. That's why he gave up the afro. What about you? Instead of just talking about other people, how about you? Eh? I'm talking about Ryza. When I said that, Sero's face went sour, and his mouth twisted. He scratched his head, straightened up, and let out a big sigh. This was probably an old habit from when he still had the afro. Adult relationships ain't that simple. Without missing a beat, I replied, I'll bet. Acting all pretentious. You think you're an adult by saying that? I looked at Sero without saying a word and brought my fingers to the edges of my mouth, pushing it up. It was an artificial smile. After that day, 4 years ago, my face, much like my left foot, wouldn't move. Nothing good comes from being an adult. Sero said that with a sigh. If I could change my expressions, I'd probably be really smiling. Weren't you on your way to buy something? Yeah, that's right. I'll get you something if you want. Want a kitty drink? I'd appreciate that, but... What? I ducked out of work. I need to get back. Sero looked dumbfounded and shrugged his shoulders. You're a workaholic. Nice phrase, but I need to work or else I'll get kicked out of the dorm and be forced to quit school. Ah, you're on a work scholarship, was it? Compensating you for working in public service, right? Right. Because of this leg, I'm an underdog in this society. I've been able to claw my way in, but I'm always just scraping by with my grades. If I don't work hard, I could be tossed aside. I doubt it's like that. I thought they were always short on help. They must think that if they can't get to it, they don't have to worry about it. Sero pondered on that, then spoke very frankly. That's just how the lunar surface is. At least that's how things seem to a certain degree. I think things should just be allowed to run their course. Sero stared at me silently for a brief moment before slowly making his way down the stairway. You're too grown up now. Thanks. Sero replied to my retort with a humph through his nose and descended the flight of stairs. You're fine with a kitty drink? I heard him from the stairs, but I didn't reply. Ascending the steps, I entered the corridor on the 4th floor. Laughter filled the air. It was probably quite lively since Sero had been to be sent out to restock before it was even noon. Everyone was in good spirits simply because of the location, but I didn't think much of people who drink, even just socially. It was true that I had to go back to work after this, but even if I didn't, I'd still be on my guard. I took off my coat and tie and slung my coat over my arm. I changed my appearance to match with the rest of them. If it comes to it, I think I can make use of this immobile left leg of mine. I can probably drop my crutches and take a dive to get out of anything that might happen. I turned the corner in that small corridor while thinking that, but then I stopped in my tracks. There was a figure in the corridor. Who's it gonna be? Who's it gonna be? Hey! Goodness! She uttered when she noticed me, flapping her clothes to cool off in the corridor. It was Ryza, who had sheltered me when I ran away from home 4 years ago and had taken care of me even after all my troubles. She had grabbed the midsection of her black and white habit and was flapping the hem around. Very unladylike. She was cheery as usual, but her face showed signs of fatigue and her cheeks were rosy as though she had a fever. I thought about pointing out she was drunk, but no. Pointing out someone's drunkenness gets one of two reactions: annoyance or delight. Both are troublesome to deal with. It was just rare to see Ryza like this. Usually, she was the one showing hospitality. She must have been really happy about today. What happened today?
You're quite late. I was beginning to think you forgot.
I didn't forget. Work's piling up, so I had to pop out of the office to come.
Goodness, really? Well, it's okay. Everyone waited.
I wonder if they planned on me bringing alcohol. When I said that, Riza gave me a blank stare. She then laughed as she hit me on the shoulder.
You're so cheeky nowadays.
Would you rather I still spoke like a street punk? Riza went deep into thought. 4 years earlier, Riza always reprimanded me over how vulgar and nasty my speech was when something happened.
Yeah, I think you were cuter back then.
I pushed up the corners of my unmoving mouth and created an artificial smile. Riza gave another small smile and laid a hand on my head.
But I love you the way you are now, too.
You should be saying that to Sarah. Riza froze after hearing that, and her face became somber.
You shouldn't tease adults.
Sarah said the same thing. Riza wanted to retort, but she wasn't able to think straight because of the alcohol. She thumped her head like she was fighting back a headache and decided to take the high road by saying,
Anyways, hurry your butt inside. The star has been waiting all this time.
That doesn't count as teasing.
I'm not teasing. Also, since I am a good big sister as well as a humble servant of God, I can't stand seeing her look so troubled.
I couldn't tell if she was being blunter than usual because she was drunk, or if she was using her drunkenness as an excuse. I knew that she really wanted to say what she really wanted to say, and also knew she couldn't be honest. Even still, it didn't make the walk any easier for me.
Well, I do realize everyone has their own issues, but today is a celebration, okay?
Riza's smile skillfully expressed a wide range of emotions. It was that of an understanding, friendly neighborhood big sister. I didn't sigh, but just gave a small shrug.
So, you at least brought a present, right?
It was only with that phrase that a terrifying expression came to her face. Of course, I couldn't forget one. She simply pointed far back into the corridor. She nodded as if saying,
Then you may pass,
with an expression like a border agent. Aren't you going?
I'm going to cool off a bit more. More people will probably be coming in the evening, so I need to conserve my energy.
Don't overdo it.
Goodness.
You're not as young as you used to be. I started walking off as if dodging the raised fist of the wide-eyed Riza. Soon, I began hearing an endless amount of cheerful laughs and toasts as I reached the door. There was a sign hung on the wall with 22nd Block Church written on it. Riza was in charge of a different church 4 years ago. She was kicked out of there and returned to Terra, but was able to come back after jumping from place to place and finally settled down here. I haven't heard the details, but it seems she had lots of hardships. It still hurts my heart to think about it. She'll never say it herself, but it was entirely my fault she had to let go of the church and sell off her bookstore, which she cherished more than anything in the world. So she did lose the church and all of the books. Yeesh. Moreover, the star of this celebration was right by my side when I brought about this catastrophe. So I was worrying up until this morning about what sort of face to present to her at this celebration. It was a blessing that my expressions don't change, regardless of my feelings. That, and the fact that Ryza and Sarah were both meddling, pushing me from behind and saying, "Get your butt over there." I took a deep breath and prepared myself. 4 years ago, I lost sight of what was really important, so I kept telling myself that this time I wouldn't look away. I took one step in from the door. It wasn't that large of a room, so it was a straight shot into the living room from the corridor. It was like I came at a perfect time. Everyone was right in front of my eyes. So much had happened 4 years ago. But they had never once blamed me for anything. Honestly, this was something I couldn't make it up to, no matter how hard I tried. She looked like she was on the verge of blossoming into a woman, having grown a little taller since 4 years ago. Perhaps she was uneasy because she was actually worried that I wouldn't come. It was ridiculous, though. How could I not come? She let out a laugh like a cry when she realized that I wasn't a phantom. So much had happened since that day 4 years ago. I was helped, and albeit not much, I helped her some, but I don't think that reduces my crime. And that was why I had to come here. Not who I expected. Congratulations on getting into college. I handed my gift over to shaggy-haired Chris as I said that. Huh, so she made it to college. Ooh, intro! All right, then. Things were already out of hand at this celebration. It wasn't even noon. Saying things went crazy all of a sudden because there were a few issues would have been a lousy excuse. Someone pulled out an instrument and people began to be drawn in by the lively atmosphere. Before long, the 22nd Block Church was overflowing with drunkards. It was probably hard even for teetotalers to refuse a drink at this point. But since it was so crazy, nobody would notice if 1 or 2 people disappeared. After failing to decline my 3rd beer, I was finally able to escape to the stairway that led to the apartment rooftop. I was short of breath and my head was buzzing since I didn't normally drink. I rested my head against the cool limestone wall in the dim stairway for relief. It really was great that Chris was going off to college, and I totally understood why all of the guys here were making such an uproar about it. Here on the lunar surface, it looked like a lot of people built their success with nothing but the shirt on their backs, but it only appeared that way because there were so many who were trying. In reality, your chances of success here were probably the same, or even lower than that of Terra's. It was a fact that assailed my mind relentlessly. Hence why there were quite a lot of citizens who looked up at the crystalline skyscrapers of Newton City and found themselves paralyzed with awe. Yet, there were those rare few who never gave up. Those who studied fervently with their left hand long after their right hand was worn out. Those who were then accepted into the Lunar City University by skipping grades, even on a full scholarship. She had been a hard worker since she was young, but watching her from the sidelines that last year was just sublime. She probably worked so hard because her father, her only living relative, returned to Terra. There, he saved his money and paid off his debt by working in one of the rigorous mineral harvesting sites. Still, though, you can't just say people tried harder when under pressure. Chris never bent, never stopped, never gave in. She was simply amazing. So very different from me. My body stopped moving on that day 4 years ago. That's how much of a shock it was. I pressed my head absent-mindedly against a wall in a desolated area for weeks, for months. Thinking about it now, I was all but a cripple. It wasn't suffering and regret repeating over and over. It would have been so much easier if it had that intensity. Having lost that connection, it felt like my battery ran out and there was nothing I could do. Chris pulled me back into reality by checking up on me and talking to me during that time. Of course, back then, Chris and I weren't that close, and I heard much later that it was Riza who suggested she come over to my house. That was why she always poked in timidly and always walked in stealthily. When I felt like I was going to burst out laughing from the irony of her coming, even though she was so bashful, blood started coursing through my heart again. I imagined her inquisitive blue eyes as I pressed my head against the wall. Chris stuck her head out from the corner of the corridor. She looked around quickly like a rabbit, with those eyes behind her large round glasses. Her messy hair was the same as always. The only things that changed were her height and her somewhat more pronounced figure. I reminisced once more about the Chris from my memories. Chris looked around again before coming to my side. As usual, she was unfaltered by my staring. Nestled against her chest was a bag that I recognized. I then finally realized that this was, in fact, the real Chris.
So, there you are.
Even though she had been accepted into college, it appeared that she still couldn't fix that worried-looking smile of hers. It made me want to straighten up her slumped posture and tell her to have more confidence. What about you? Can the star of this thing just disappear like that?
It looks like alcohol is the star.
That wasn't her putting herself down, but more likely what she had observed in detail from the state of that room. When I motioned for her to take the spot next to me, she sat by me bashfully after a bit of reluctance.
What are you thinking about?
Chris had always started the conversations these past 4 years.
You look really out of it.
About the past.
Past?
When you began coming to my place. Chris blinked surprisingly behind those glasses when I brazenly said that. She then gave a rare, terribly precocious smile.
You're quite mean.
Mean?
Yeah, because
Chris had an obviously sour look on her face when she said that.
Riza had asked me to go, and that's why I went.
Huh. Well, that's true.
Yeah.
I couldn't understand what Chris meant with her reassuring nod. Yeah. But, well...
Huh?
In the beginning, it was just you coming by.
That's because there was that stuff with my dad and a different house, so I felt like I was going crazy. That's not it. We're talking about how you're mean for saying such a thing.
Because of the liquor, I couldn't think straight.
Did you come here today because you were asked to?
Chris used to fret and be startled like a little cowering animal, but now those mischievous blue eyes of hers stared into me. Like how with Riza said I had changed, Chris had become more grown up. Maybe. Sort of. Chris appeared to be genuinely hurt when I gave my answer, but that was the truth. Though there are many categories of truth. And unfortunately, I think we're going to have to find out what those categories are next episode. So a lot has happened apparently in 4 years. All the stuff that went down seems to have been carried through. Everyone in that neighborhood got borked over by that douche canoe that took everything. But it seems like they're bouncing back. They've taken their lumps and are recovering. This is hardly the full cast and crew of episode 1 though, so I'm curious where everyone else is. Hopefully they pop up, and hopefully we can learn a bit more of what's gone on and just what are we going to do about it now. We'll have to find out next time round though. As always, thank you for joining me. I hope you're going to have fun with this one. I know I am. I'm excited for this one. I've been meaning to get to it for a while now. So hit that subscribe button so you can check out all future episodes and all the other shenanigans that we've gotten up to in the past on this channel. And I will see you all next time.